Hello and welcome. I'm Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. While Washington celebrates the operations in Venezuela and the capture of Nicolás Maduro, the response from Europe has been a delicate balancing act between political rejection of the Maduro regime and deep concern over the use of force. Leading the response for the European Union, High Representative Kaja Kallas confirmed she has been in direct contact with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Kallas reiterated the bloc's long-standing position that Maduro lacked legitimacy, but she struck a tone of caution, calling for absolute restraint and urging all parties to respect the UN Charter and international law. Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK was quick to distance the United Kingdom from the kinetic phase of the operation. Starmer told reporters that the UK was not involved in any way, adding that he intends to speak directly with President Trump to establish the full facts. His message was clear: we must all uphold the rule of law. Meanwhile, Spain, which is currently home to many Venezuelan opposition leaders, has offered to act as a mediator. The Spanish Foreign Ministry is calling for de-escalation and moderation, while reaffirming that it still does not recognize the 2024 election results. Joining us live on the broadcast is Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar, former diplomat. We're also being joined by Major General Shashi Asthana, defense expert. Shruti Dasgupta, foreign affairs expert, is joining us live. Matty Zweig, geopolitical expert, is also live with us from Tel Aviv, Israel. Let me make a start with you first, Ambassador Sajjanar. What do you make of the European response to this US strike? Of course, a lot of statements have come in from various leaders across Europe and the UK. What do you make of their statements, their cautionary first reactions, and also the EU's top negotiators' statement as well? What can we infer?
Yeah, thank you very much, Uday. You're very right. These statements are very, very cautious. They are very, very guarded. They are not, many of them, whatever I've heard, they're not one way or the other, decisive, except I think for the first statement that I came across. That was by Kaja Kallas, that is the EU High Representative for Foreign and Security Affairs. And she was, meaning she is the voice of the European Union. If you remember, in the early 1970s, when Henry Kissinger had asked, what number do I dial when I want to speak with Europe? Because, Europe was speaking with so many different voices. And after that, after the Lisbon Treaty in 2009, it came out that the EU High Representative for Foreign and Security Affairs would be the voice of the European Union. So that voice of the European Union has said that there was no legitimacy as far as Maduro was concerned as the president of Venezuela. And whatever has been done, she did seem to indicate that she was in full agreement with whatever the United States had done, although she did add that the UN principles and rule of law, etc., needs to be followed. But she didn't say that whatever US action was, whether it was following the international rule of law or not. So, but as far as the others are concerned, I think Georgia Maloney, she has said she is watching. The point here, Uday, I think what we have to note is that it is very difficult for Europe to go against United States, particularly at this juncture. At every juncture, it would have been difficult, but particularly at this juncture, it is very difficult for them because, United States is very much in the thick of negotiating some sort of a ceasefire or peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. And they definitely want the United States to stand along with them when there are security guarantees to be provided to Ukraine. And they find that the United States is really washing its hands of NATO and any security guarantees that NATO should provide. The national security strategy of the United States that has been issued last month, exactly a month ago on the 4th of December, it has come out very clearly that, Europe will really have to fend for itself. There is, Europe faces, what the NSS calls a civilizational erasure if it does not make any changes in its own policies in terms of giving more freedom of expression to right-wing parties and controlling immigration, etc. So the relations between Europe and the United States in any case are very stressed and tense. And definitely Europe wants United States to be on its side when it is so actively engaged as far as negotiations between the US, between Russia and Ukraine and Europe are concerned. So they are in a dilemma. So I don't think that they are going to go in any way against the United States. They will definitely be supportive of the United States. They have said that the legitimacy of Maduro is questionable because those elections were not free and fair. And then we'll have to wait and see. And in any case, now, Uday, we have to see that this is a fait accompli. It is not as if the operation is going on and you can sort of, do something about it by standing one way or the other. And, if Mr. Trump has been able to, override even what the US domestic system is,
Yes.
it has to take approval from the Congress.
Yes.
That also it has not done. So I think Europe is really in no position to point a finger or to say, tell Trump that what he has done is he's overstepping the limits.
Okay, Mijal Lasana, come in here on what you make of the global responses coming in so far to this strike by the United States of America, and in particular, what Europe has said in these very cautionary reactions and responses. Of course, a lot of these countries are allies, are strategic partners of the United States of America, but very guarded, cautionary, measured statements coming in from them. Was this expected? Does this surprise you? Or is this what the US perhaps would have also expected?
It doesn't surprise me, and I agree with whatever Ambassador Sajanar has said. Let me highlight a few issues in that. Firstly, Europe doesn't have the kind of strategic autonomy, nor has it built enough resilience for itself to handle Russia, and therefore they need the United States whether they like it or not. Secondly, as far as the unilateral action of President Trump is concerned, let's be quite clear, it has got nothing to do with the narcotic or whatever allegations which he is making. The fact is, Venezuela has the highest reserves of oil. Maduro was diversifying the sale because earlier it used to be 80% American companies. President Trump, for his elections, I think these oil companies have invested enough. He has to deliver. There is a problem, domestic problem in America. He is also struggling with Epstein files. He is struggling with dwindling ratings, and therefore, a diversion of this kind and a bravado action, he thinks that he will be able to perhaps regain some ground as far as his decisiveness is concerned. But when we talk of the domestic system, unfortunately, the American domestic system is not as strong or as democratic as we think. Somebody from America in one of the think tanks told me very clearly that we have a system where a president can murder the opposition leader and pardon himself. That is the kind of system we have. But because that's a statement of fact. But that, notwithstanding that, that's how it is. Now, as far as the reactions of the rest of the world are concerned, let me just highlight there. European part has been analyzed well. Chinese also haven't given that kind of response as it would have been. See, this is a violation of UN Charter and breaking law, and I have no hesitation in saying so as an analyst and as a former UN staff. Let me tell you that for Chinese, they also be looking at two different things. One is, yes, they are buying a hell of a lot of oil from Venezuela, and perhaps Trump it's not being liked by Trump, and he's trying to interfere with that as well. But China also looks at that if they can do this, then obviously they have got no moral grounds to stop me from whatever I want to do with Taiwan. Whether I want to invade or I don't want to invade, that's up to me. But I think America has now no locus standi, having done this kind of action in Venezuela. So, as far as Russia is concerned, they are overemployed in Ukraine and do not have the capacity to intervene by any stretch of imagination. And in any case, it's a fait accompli, because now what they are saying is their aim is that there should be somebody in Venezuela who opens up the oil reserves to the American companies. That's all they want from Venezuela. And that would have been achieved having removed Maduro, because the other contenders, especially the opposition leader and others, they perhaps may be more amenable to go back to the original system where American companies were taking lion's share from the oil reserves of Venezuela. So everybody is looking after its own interest. Even the caution is also their own interest, whatever everybody is trying to say. So I am sure the global response will be firstly taking into account their own national interest, and then perhaps whether it is criticism or it is a lukewarm statement, they will perhaps decide between the two. But given the kind of precedents we have, see, they went to Iraq with by the excuse of weapons of mass destruction. There was none there. Similarly, they had a regime change in Libya. They find Al-Shara with 10 million bombs
Yes.
earlier, and all of a sudden being put there. So the hypocrisy is still there, and they have got away with it many times. So they will perhaps will go again back to you.
Okay, let me bring in Matty Zweig in at this point as well. Matty Zweig, has Israel reacted officially as yet to this strike on Venezuela by the US? What have they said in their first response, Matty? And what do you make of the responses coming in from across the globe, particularly Europe, to the US's actions? How should they be interpreted?
Well, Uday, I've been listening very good to all your guests. They know what they are talking about. And from the other side, I think there is a very, I would say, highly hypocrite way of thinking from the Europeans, because for years, at least Maduro is incarcerating people, torturing people. They don't care about it. They care about now that someone is violating the international law. I know what they are taking care. Why are they going to remove Maduro if the world doesn't remove other dictatorships like Burma or Uganda, or it doesn't matter what? I understand that. But in this case, this is a country that became not only a dictatorship, but a narco state. And this state was threatening the safety of millions of American citizens, exporting openly drugs to there. Not the only country, of course, that has relationships about this kind of level, but yes, this is a country that has passed all the red lines, especially from the head, from Maduro, and now he's going to face the American justice for good and bad.
Yes, and also, Matty, now we are also hearing, of course, that Venezuela is urging for a UNSC meeting at the earliest. Reports suggest that Russia has also backed this demand. What will come out of that meeting if it does take place?
Well, as usual, in the same way with all the Russia or Iran or North Korea are involved in something that is a chain of supplying all kind of goods for Venezuela. Now it's going to change, because if the regime is going to do a real change, maybe they are going to be aligned in a different way. So many countries, they are feeling threatened, and they are going to the UN as usual to do a vote that is not going to be compulsive in any way, in the same way that it was not compulsive in the past with another narco traffickers like Noriega in '99 and in other cases.
Yes. Shruti Dasgupta, let me quickly rope you in here. These are initial reactions, of course, which are coming in. Of course, there will be more that will perhaps come in once the US has that official briefing where they give details about that strike later tonight. But these measured cautionary responses, do they surprise you, given the fact that they come from the strategic partners, the allies, quote unquote, of the United States of America, or are they on expected lines?
These are on expected lines. The allies cannot go fist bumping and saying, go Trump, go, because then it would make them look like big hypocrites, because they've been crying about the very same kind of aggression from Russia towards Ukraine and Crimea and the other regions in Donbass. So they cannot go and root for Trump. So, and they have, that is why taken the Kaja Kallas, her statement, as well as other people's statement. They're saying that we know that this, the regime was not very honest, the elections were not free and fair. So we understand, but we cannot really condone this kind of violence. It is basically a very nice diplomatic doublespeak, which is taking place on international levels, while they are holding other nations accountable for aggression, state-wise aggression. They will never hold USA accountable in the same lines. This aggression has been growing. We've all been sitting on panels and asking for UN to intervene when they started hitting boats, when they started hitting shipments. Just because they were flagless, or at least they were claimed to be flagless, they turned into stateless vessels, and their lives have been lost. There have been no proof that this is narco-terrorism at its peak. Right now, USA even issued a bounty on Maduro's head. And they've been very, very blatant about what they want. They have given refuge to Maria, who is a Peace Prize winner for 2025. And she has very, very specifically stated that she would invite with both hands USA into the nation of freed Venezuela. Yes, I understand that there is oppression. Yes, I understand that people are suffering. I do not condone of the kind of systematic violence that Venezuela suffers under such a very hard, harsh regime. And most communist or socialist regimes tend to find themselves at this particular point where they have to push very via force their ideology, because otherwise the sinking economy, the lack of employment, the high inflation rates drive people to push their leaders out of power. So I know that Venezuela suffers, but it does not give any other nation the right to go in with military force, boots on ground. This is state-sanctioned terrorism. Right now, for me, USA is no better than Russia when it walks in. At least Russia did it for the people. People of Crimea have answered in referendum that they and Donbass have said that they relate with Putin and his Kremlin and his Moscow and his entire Russian identity. This is not the same with Venezuela. If Venezuela needs freedom, you cannot go
Yes.
in with boots on ground with your helicopters and claim that you are doing the best for them.
Okay, okay. Now as Maduro's ouster from Venezuela is raising eyebrows, it seems that the Venezuelan diaspora is jubilant though, with these high-octane developments witnessed over the last few hours. Enthusiastic crowds of Venezuelans have gathered in Chile's capital of Santiago and in Doral in Florida in the US, celebrating the capture of Nicolás Maduro by US forces. Crowds have danced and chanted slogans as the news of the capture spread through the Venezuelan expatriate community.
El gobierno venezolano solo tenía 22 años, nos arrebataron un hermano, un hijo, un tío, y así como la sangre de él y la cantidad de sangre derramada por muchos compatriotas, hoy se está haciendo justicia. Se está haciendo justicia por la cantidad de venezolanos que salimos a demostrar lo que somos. Somos luchadores, emprendedores, somos buenas personas, pero queremos regresar a nuestro país para reconstruirlo, para seguir adelante y seguir siendo esa potencia que toda la vida hemos sido. ¡Viva Venezuela! ¡Viva!
La gente está feliz, está eufórica la gente aquí, todo feliz, feliz por ellos, porque ellos que sufren aquí en este país que ha sido tan déspota de repente la gente chilena, pero no todos somos así. Yo estoy contento por ellos porque van a llegar a su país, bueno, no se van a ir al tiro tampoco porque no los voy a dejar irse todavía.
A mí es una alegría demasiado grande, me siento bastante venezolano el día de hoy, después de tantos años, después de muchas luchas, después de mucho trabajo. Hoy es el día, hoy llegó el día y es el día de la libertad. El día que tanto los venezolanos como yo, como todas estas personas que están acá, como todas las personas alrededor del mundo estábamos esperando.
Ambassador Shuk Sajanar, what do you make of these visuals, these scenes of jubilation emerging?
Yeah, I think definitely, as far as Maduro's government is concerned, and before that, when we had the Hugo Chavez government also, there was great disaffection against them because of the policies, because of, both in the economic area, also in law and order, and there were lots of problems. It's not as if, this was a white, pure as, milk government which was doing everything right. No, not at all. they had problems, and obviously, there would be number of opponents as far as the Maduro government and before that Chavez government is concerned. I think that would be one of the reasons why the CIA and the US forces also found it so easy to go in, because they would have had a large number of informants. There was so much of dissatisfaction against this government that they would have been able to get a large number of people who would have been willing to share with them all the information about the location, all the plans of different areas, different buildings, even within the security system of President Maduro. So, I'm not surprised that these celebrations are taking place, but that is not the issue that at hand that we have been discussing. It is basically, whether it was justified for one country to go inside another country, violating its territorial integrity, violating its sovereignty, totally against the principles and the Charter of the United Nations, and to get the president, capture, kidnap the president and his wife, and haul them across to their own country. This is exactly what the whole so-called free world, the Western world, has been talking about against Russia. That it is Ukraine is a UN member. It's an independent country, and its rights, its territorial integrity has been violated. Now the shoe has, gone onto the other foot. So, should they condemn it? Should they support it? So, I think this is the starkest demonstration of the doublespeak and hypocrisy of the Western world that people have been speaking about.
Yes.
And as far as the global South is concerned,
Yes.
that is going to look through all of this, particularly as far as South America is concerned.
Yes. Now,
and those countries will be very nervous.
Yes. Now, these visuals, though, Major General Astana, are not coming in from Venezuela. I want to just remind our viewers once again, these are from the expatriate community reported. So, visuals from Chile and visuals from the US are showing this kind of jubilation amongst the diaspora that exists abroad. What do you infer from these visuals? What do they tell us about the possible sense within Venezuela, and obviously the sentiments amongst the diaspora abroad?
See, there is a sizable population within the diaspora as well as within the country who was angry with Maduro. That's a statement of fact. So therefore, in the age of information warfare, selective amplification of such protests or such jubilation cannot be ruled out, and therefore, but that doesn't give the right, as was mentioned, for any country, even if let's say if it was an illegitimate government or claimed to be illegitimate government on unfair elections, etc., then I think it is the right of the locals of Venezuela to rectify it and get the right person in the chair, but not any outsider. That's one part of it. Secondly, let me also highlight that I'm sure that CIA would have cultivated a large number of security personals as well as people who were around Maduro, because seeing all the video footages which all of you have been showing till today, one can make out that there was hardly any resistance by any security people of Maduro. So that means they were reasonably confident that they have been able to cultivate enough guys who are around Maduro, and they will be able to execute this operation without much of damage to them. Because normally, America, whenever they launch a military operation, they are very scared of casualties, whether it is of men or their military assets, in both cases. And in this case, I'm sure what they would have done is that all the air defenses, etc., they would have been jammed in the beginning. And as far as the closer security of the president is concerned, I'm sure a fair amount of compromise would have taken place. And that is how this operation was able to, they would have been able to execute this operation. And and there has not been We have not seen their military reacting in the manner in which a military of a sovereign country would react. So if that reaction was not there, that means everything has been tailor-made, masterminded, and perhaps stage-managed in the best possible effort by the CIA. So all in all, one can say is okay. Maduro may not be a popular leader, understandable, but then the act of getting into another country opens a Pandora box, and a repetition by some other hegemon of a similar kind may have lesser deterrence now in the open world. As far as United Nations is concerned, people can keep going to the United Nations. USA is a veto wielding power. I don't think UNSC any resolution can impact America. They have the precedence of getting away with it earlier. They will get away this time as well. Uday.
Okay, let me quickly leave the last word to you, Shruti Dasgupta, there before I take a break.
It's very simple to me. If it can happen to Venezuela, it can happen to you. We're not here contesting about whether Maduro was a just leader or not, whether Venezuela was progressing under his leadership or not, whether the people deserve to choose somebody else, whether the elections were stolen or not. What we are talking about is military impact of one nation on another, of a major power over an inferior power. And if this can be condoned in Venezuela in the name of narco-terrorism, of which UN itself does not have any proof, then it can happen to any other nation. Colombia will be panicking, Peru will be panicking, because they are listed in that damn UN report as the major cultivation nation of the cocaine and the narcotics that USA claims to be countering. Brazil will be quaking in its boots. Mexico would be wondering who's next, because all of this comes from the national security doctrine, the Monroe Doctrine, which has been revised and refitted towards the Americas under Trump regime. They want the North and South America, the Western Hemisphere, its economic policies, military policies, and every other political voice to resonate with what US thinks is right. So if this is happening to Venezuela, it can happen to anybody else. We are not here talking about whether Maduro was a good guy. We are talking about whether this action is justified, and it is not. It is never going to be justified. It is just going to be unpunished in any international forum. No matter what Russia says, no matter what China says, they're going to condemn these acts. China's envoy was present in Venezuela when these attacks were happening.
Okay.
The China High Commission was called to the White House and told at a particular hour in the night that something's going to happen. So things are, the geopolitical theater is much larger than what
all right, let's leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us. We've run out of time. We're slipping into a very short break. Stay with NewsX.